Good evening, everyone. I am County Legislator Cathie Borgia, Chairwoman of the Westchester County Board of Legislators, joined here with many of my colleagues to join the County Executive for the signing of our Clinic Access Bill, which we passed moments ago on the 8th floor. Thank you so much to the County Executive for agreeing to do this. This is historic legislation that we have been working on between the administration and the Board of Legislators, certainly for the past 6 months and for many years prior to that. We are very pleased that this bill has passed in this time, even though this has been a long time coming. The recent decision to overturn Roe has made these issues even more crucial, and we want everyone to know that anyone accessing reproductive care here in Westchester County will be protected. We also want everyone to know that the First Amendment right to free speech is also protected by this measure. It's really been a pleasure to work with many of our staff and colleagues on this bill. We want to thank the New York Civil Liberties Union, the Attorney General's Office, Planned Parenthood, Westchester Coalition for Legal Abortion, Choice Matters, and also many of the advocates who have spoken to us about both sides of this issue. We're really delighted to have this historic measure pass and be signed tonight. I'd like to introduce the lead sponsor of this measure, Legislator Mary Jane Shimsky.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Borgia. You and I have been fighting the battle on this one for 10 years now. And I'm so glad that we're finally at this place. Although we all know that as happy as we are that this has finally been achieved for the women who either live in this county or who travel to this county for their reproductive health care, that these are actually very serious times for women and for women's health care, including abortion, but including everything else. Because these people who think they have a right to commit crimes against other people, they don't ask if you're going in for an abortion. They don't ask if you're going in for a cancer screening or if you're going in for an x-ray or if you're going in for a prenatal visit or you're going in because you're concerned there may be an issue with the baby you're carrying. They just go after everyone, every single woman and their escorts indiscriminately. And this is wrong. Now, there is a First Amendment right to free speech, and there are many protesters at these clinics who understand what the limits are and who follow them. But there are others who use the First Amendment as a shield so they can commit acts of harassment, physical intimidation, and like what happened at All Women's Health last November, actually invade a healthcare facility, not concerned about sterile conditions and just shutting the place down for hours without regard to what the needs of the patients are. So this bill does two things. Number one, it really does protect the rights of women to reproductive health care, including but not limited to abortion. The second thing is, fundamentally, it is a law and order bill. We don't behave like this in a civilized society. And if protesting isn't good enough for you and you commit any of the acts enumerated in this bill, you can face up to 6 months in jail. And that's as it should be in a free society, because everybody gets the right to choose their health care, and other people don't get the right to stomp into your doctor's office and say no and stand there for hours on end. So I am very happy that after all of these years working and fighting the great fight with Legislator Borgia and so many of the legislators who are currently here, I'd like to especially call out the two committee chairs, Jewel Williams-Johnson of the Health Committee and Legislator Colin Smith of the Legislation Committee. But our predecessors, including Judy Myers and Kitley Koval and many of the others that we're all smiling about, thinking about as we reflect back on what these 10 years have been like. And of course, we thank all of the advocates, Catherine Lederer-Plaskett and Choice Matters, Planned Parenthood, the Civil Liberties Union, the New York State Attorney General's office. Thank you so much for making this bill a better bill, and one that we hope will be effective in protecting the women who are seeking reproductive health care, the pregnant people of all genders, as well as the general public.
Thank you. Next up to speak will be our Majority Leader, Christopher Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to thank our leadership, and specifically leadership from our chairwoman, Cathie Borgia, our vice chair, Nancy Barr, and leader on this issue and this topic specifically, Mary Jane Shimsky. It's because of their leadership and guidance that we're here today supporting healthcare decisions of women all throughout Westchester County. Recognizing their outstanding leadership, my outstanding leadership that I give to them. That came out wrong, but you know.
Good job, Chris.
You want to try that again?
Typical me.
Listen. I'll let what I should have done in the first place is what I'll let happen right now. I'll let the vote speak for itself. We had 15 Democrats stand together and vote tonight for the autonomy of women's choice throughout Westchester County, and that's what matters.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you also to Legislator Alfreda Williams, who we forgot to mention, but who is also a very strong advocate for this piece of legislation. I hope she's watching from home this moment. Okay, next up, our County Executive, George Latimer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, colleagues, those of you serving on the Board of Legislators. As I prepare to sign this bill, I'm going to invite all of the county legislators that would like to join me around the table. This is, to my knowledge, an unprecedented moment when a county executive signing a bill into law has all members of the legislature who voted for the legislation here present to be part of the bill signing. We learned back in grade school that there are three branches of government, including the judiciary. But for the decision in general government, there's a legislative branch and an executive branch, and they are separated. I've served as a legislator in this legislative body and in other legislative bodies, and I respect the difference between the two branches. I respect the independence of the legislature to discuss, debate, and finalize bills which they send to an executive elected separately to exert judgment in this area. And we're signing this bill in law today because we are in agreement that this should be a law. Let me say that there will be a temptation to talk about this bill only in the context of what it does for women's right to choose. This bill is more than that. This bill is about democracy, and I'll tell you briefly why before I sign it. We've reached a point in our society where the disagreements that we have over policy issues are on the edge of turning into violence, which Americans will do against Americans. As a young boy, I read about the Civil War. I have no connection to it. I was born 100 years roughly after it. But the disagreement that we have on an issue, there's no more controversial issue than the issue of a woman's right to choose. But there are other issues that also generate controversy. And we have to set out a defense of democracy that's greater than any individual issue. And that defense of democracy is that we have rules. We have rules of conduct. We have rules of engagement by which we agree and we disagree, and that we resort to the ballot box, not to the bullet box, to make decisions. And in this particular case, this legislation which your honorable board has put before me represents an argument that says you may, through the constitutional rights you were given, use your right for free speech. You have your right for free assembly. But you cannot use the tools of democracy to destroy democracy. You cannot use your free speech and your free assembly to intimidate other people, to physically threaten them, to not just threaten them, but to actually do bodily harm to them. We've seen examples of that in this society. I fear we may see more examples of it. So we're taking a stand today, collectively, that says that there are certain processes by which items are made legal and perhaps illegal. And in this particular case, when those items have been decided and adjudicated properly, or when they've been decided by a legislative body and executive body, that they have the power of law that we must respect. We can speak against it, we can assemble against it, but we cannot physically interdict against the law. And once we do that, we stop being a democracy. Once we do that, we stop being the special America that we always talk about. We're no different than those countries around the globe that let tyranny take the place of rationality. Now, we're a county government, not a state government, not a federal government. But this statement today is to say there's a proper place for speech, there's a proper place for assembly, and it has to be within those contexts. It cannot become physical intimidation or harm done to fellow Americans. So today, I signed this bill, which, and I'll just briefly read the final caption of this. Is local law for the year 2022, number 258. This legislation has been passed by the Board of Legislators, the County of Westchester, by 15 votes in favor, 2 votes against, on this day, the 27th day of the month of June of 2022. That has been certified by Sunday Vanderberg, who's the clerk of the County Board of Legislators. So on this day, the 27th day in the month of June, and I'm going to use different pens so that we have the symbolic acceptance of these pens in a second. In the month of June, I need one of those long names. It is the power vested in me as county executive, given to me by the people of Westchester, to sign this as Westchester County Executive, and thereby, they teach you this at county executive school. By my signature, George Latimer, this is now law in the county of Westchester.
Yeah.
Let me offer to the chair of the Board of Legislators
Thank you.
and to the chief sponsors of the bill, both the chair and the prior majority leader, and then to the current leadership of the board, Mr. Majority Leader, Madam Vice Chair, and Mr. Majority Whip. And there are 12. There are 10 other pens for the remaining members of the board who have also been part of this. And I just want to thank you. This, and you should understand this. This bill was a process of the legislative process. The executive branch performs its duty by signing it into law, but this was an example of a legislative body operating the way a legislative body would be, open and in public, taking in public comment, both for and against. We know that there are people on both sides of this issue, deliberating it over an extended period of time, leaving time available for all those voices to be heard to make sure that the bill before us is in its best possible form. And at any point in time that amendments have to be made, amendments can be made. But this is now the law in Westchester County, and I'm honored to be able to sign this. And Madam Chair, congratulations on the job well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair, Legislator, Mr. Majority Leader, Legislator and Chairman Emeritus, Legislator, congratulations. Madam Sponsor, Legislator, congratulations. Legislator, and Mr. Majority Whip.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to additional opportunities to join together and give out pens.
Thank you.